Hey everyone, Anthony Venuti here with In Touch Mortgage Solutions. It's Friday, Finance Fridays, and thank you again for clicking. On this episode, we're going to take an opportunity and dive into the First-Time Homebuyer Savings Account, or the FHSA account, launched by the Liberal government last year and coming into effect in 2023. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss it. As we are now in 2023, I wanted to take an opportunity to talk a little bit about the First Home Savers Account, or the First-Time Homebuyer Savings Account, a program that was launched back in April by the Liberal government. But what I wanted to do is actually start off by talking a little bit about the program, some of the benefits that you may see as a first-time homebuyer, thinking in the next few months when tax season rolls around and you might be contemplating about, hey, do I top up my tax-free savings account? Do I put money into RRSPs, or do I think about opening the FHSA, the First Home Savers Account, or First-Time Home Buyer Savings Account? Now, obviously, there's a lot of things to consider. The programs are different. Last April, when we did our video, we talked a little bit about it, and a lot has changed since the inception of this product, and things will probably continue to change as this product gets launched. And if you want to stay on top of the changes, and if this is something that interests you, obviously feel free to hit the like, share, and subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can get notified every time we post a video, especially when it comes to these types of products. So very simply, this product is designed strictly for first-time home buyers. There are some requirements for you to purchase, get into this program, I should say, technically to purchase a home. So you have to take that into consideration. There is a maximum contribution limit of around $40,000 per individual. It doesn't expand as time goes on, unlike, I should say, a tax-free savings account, which the limit contribution goes up. Currently, right now, the tax-free savings account limit is $6,500 per year. Now, the first-time homebuyer savings account has a limit of $8,000 per year to a maximum of $40,000. Now, obviously, if you are purchasing a home with a significant other or partner, that can actually double to $80,000, or total contribution of around $16,000 per year that you can both put into this specific savings account. And we'll get into that a little bit more. So it's important to understand that the first-time homebuyer savings account is a little bit different than a tax-free savings account. And by that I mean, if, for example, you pull out money from a tax-free savings account, because it's tax-free, you don't necessarily have to claim that money as income, right? That money you can pull out tax-free at any given time whenever you desire to pull that money out, and for whatever purpose you need that money for. However, unlike that program, the tax-free savings account is different than the first-time homebuyer savings account, because any funds that are in that account and that you decide to pull out, and if it's not for the purchase of a home, will be taxable. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, a benefit to the first-time homebuyer savings account, unlike a tax-free savings account, is that when you contribute to the account, you actually get a tax credit, or you actually see your money come off your taxes that you need at the end of the year, much like an RRSP. And this is very important because these two products are different. And when you think about RRSP, you're thinking long-term generally, and there is the ability for you to pull out up to $35,000 if you have that money invested in RRSPs. However, with the RRSP and the HBP, or the home buyer's plan, you are required to pay that back in 15 years. Where when you use the first-time home buyer's savings account, you do not need to pay that money back, and the account gets closed once you've purchased a home. So there are some distinguishing factors, and if you stay tuned to the end of the video, I'm going to post a chart that's a side-by-side comparison that you can actually just take a snapshot of it on the screen, and you can actually refer to as it breaks down the different components and some of the limitations. So I want to get into some of the details, or some of the limitations and exclusions. So first and foremost, with the first-time homebuyer savings account, you need to be eligible for the program. And in order to be eligible for this program, you must be a Canadian resident, or a resident of Canada. The other thing is you must be at least 18 years of age or older. And the most important criteria for this product is actually that you have not owned a home in the past 4 years, or the 4 calendar years. So let's say hypothetically you owned a home previously in the past, maybe been with a significant other, an ex, a spouse, anything along those lines. Let's say you owned it in 2015, but you haven't purchased it, you've been living at home or you've been renting, you are eligible as long as it's been 4 years. So you have to be very cautious of that. One other important element is that the program itself is valid for about 15 years. So from inception to the end of the product, you have about 15 years to maximize your savings. And at that particular point, if you don't end up purchasing a home, the money is not in vain. You can take that money and you can transfer it into your RRSPs, or you can put that money into your tax-free savings account if you have the room available to contribute that amount. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, when you're looking at the funds, so you don't necessarily, you can have a mixture of different funds. You can have your own savings, you can have RSP, you can have tax-free and the first-time home buyer savings account in conjunction. You don't necessarily have to use the first-time home buyer savings account as a down payment or a deposit, although I see that is probably the stream that most Canadians will probably apply it to. But as long as you've purchased a home and you have an actual arrangement or agreement, you can actually use those funds for closing costs, for furniture, for any type of item that you need for the home, as long as there is a home purchase that's happened in the calendar year of when you're filing to take out that money. So that's very important. It's not just for deposit or down payment, but you can use those monies for renovations of the home, anything to do with the home itself. As long as you've purchased the home, you can use those funds. Now, as we were talking about some of the things that you need to be eligible for in order to withdraw, like obviously when you're withdrawing those funds, as long as you purchased a home, there are some things that you need to pay attention to. Obviously, as I talked about in some of the earlier criteria, you need to be a first-time home buyer or have not purchased a home in 4 years. You need to also be residing in Canada when making the withdrawal. And another important thing is you must have that written agreement to buy the home in Canada before they're saying October 1st of that calendar year. And one important caveat, I know this is going to be a question for maybe a lot of first-time home buyers that want to buy an investment property, you need to have the home as a primary residence. It needs to be your primary residency. Now, when you think about the money that you're putting in, as you're gradually starting to save in this account, what types of vehicles or what type of investment tools can you use? As that is the purpose of this account. You want to basically contribute, but you want to invest that money so that you can get some returns on that investment. And obviously that will depend on the market and the type of risk volatility or appetite to risk that you have when investing that money. So firstly is ETFs. You're allowed to invest in ETFs, stocks, bonds. You can keep the money in cash in the tax-free savings account. You can also do mutual funds and GIC. So these are some of the vehicles of which you can use now, depending obviously, as I mentioned, on your appetite to risk. You may want to consider, some of the GICs, maybe some mutual funds instead of in the riskier products. But obviously that is up to you on what you choose to do with those funds in that account. Now, as we've gone over some of the major components, obviously, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I want to be very clear that a lot of this stuff may change. There might be some new products, some new transferability that might come out as we start to roll into April around tax season. Now, what I really want to do is just go over some of the thoughts. I know that many of you might be thinking, is this first-time home buyer savings account actually going to make housing more affordable? And to that answer, the simple answer is I believe no. And the reason why I don't think this is going to make housing more affordable is because let's say we have a pool of buyers that capitalize on this product. That just means there's more clients or more consumers that have this account, have the money available to them competing for the same amount of homes. But with that being said, it is definitely something that we need to consider when it talks about affordability for Canadians and their individual budgets. In that sense, I mean, if you're putting money aside, the more money that you're putting down, the more money you're able to save, the more money you're able to apply to your down payment, obviously the less of a mortgage you may have. And having less of a mortgage and not stretching yourself to purchase that home, even if you qualify, remember, just because you could doesn't mean you should, will obviously help affordability for the individual client. But as a market share of affordability as a whole, obviously that is a major problem in Canada, one that we've seen extremely elevated in 2022, and one that I will think will be still persistent in 2023 and onwards, as interest rates are definitely a little bit more challenging and qualification is obviously a little bit more stringent. So it is important to keep in mind, in my opinion, that yes, although this is a great product, this will help Canadians, actually set a budget, able to help them save some money. directly for purchasing a home. And as I mentioned, it is good for 15 years if you don't end up using the account, or if you end up using the account, the moment you end up closing or on that purchase, as long as you've purchased that home, you do need to close that account. It is no longer existent. Then you can revert back to things like, let's say, your tax-free savings account or an RRSP. So there are some things to consider, and we will keep you up to date with all that information. But what I want to do is I want to know from you, our viewers, what are your thoughts on the first-time homebuyer savings account? Is this actually going to be a valid product? Is this going to be something that will help Canadians? And we want to hear from you, our viewers. So we'll end the video here. We hope that everyone enjoyed it. And if you have any questions about the first-time homebuyer savings account or pre-approval or pre-qualification, feel free to reach out to our team at In Touch Mortgage Solutions. We'll be more than happy to help you and answer those questions for you. But until next week, thanks for watching, thanks for clicking, and we'll see you next week.